So this is the BJCP score sheet. This is what beer judges uses to score beer. And it's also pretty much identical to what I'll be using when I'm at the tasting exam. So here's the section where you just fill in your general information. And then here's where you mark some descriptors, so you can kind of go back and look at some things that could potentially be off flavors and comment on them. And here's a section where you grade on aroma out of 12 points, appearance out of 3 points, flavor out of 20, mouthfeel out of 5, and your overall impression out of 10. And those should, when you add them all up, correspond, in your opinion, with this section here. These are ranges for outstanding, excellent, very good, good, fair, and problematic. The BJCP is really particular about how you fill these score sheets out. They want you to be complete. They want you to be really descriptive, but they also don't want you to be negative. They want you to be positive and to be helpful, and also tell the person that brewed the beer what they can do to make the beer better, which is why having a homebrewing background is so important when you're becoming a beer judge. So I've been practicing filling out a lot of these score sheets because I want, you have 15 minutes to judge a beer. It sounds like a long time, but it's not. And so what I've been doing is judging, just tasting beers and filling out the score sheets and making sure that I tick off all the appropriate boxes and seeing if when I do detect something that could be considered an off flavor or fault, that I know how to tell the brewer, which in this case isn't a home brewer, but, you know, someone from an actual brewery, what they could have done to improve upon the beer, and just kind of practicing using my beer vocabulary. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try 3 beers and score them on the score sheet. Okay, these are the 3 beers that I'm going to be tasting and scoring today. I tried to pick beers that are of styles that I either have not yet tried, which is difficult to find, even though there's 23 main categories and a bunch of subcategories, or beers that I haven't had in a very long time, styles I mean. So right here we have an English India Pale Ale, otherwise known as an IPA, a milk or sweet stout, and a Dunkelweizen. We're going to start with the IPA, India Pale Ale. India Pale Ales, so this is the English variety. It's quite different than the American variety that most of us Americans are used to. IPAs are very, very bitter because they have lots and lots of hops in them. And the reason why is because IPAs were first brewed in England, and the hops kept the beer fresh when transporting the beer to India when it was occupied by England. So that's why there are a lot of what they call hop heads out there who just love their hops, love their bitter beers, and but the English IPA is a little less bitter. It's going to have more malt flavor. The balance between the malt, which, if you don't know a lot about beer, is the grainy, bready taste you get, and the hops it's more balanced, and than what we're usually used to in an IPA. Although there are American versions of English Pale Ales out there, an English an English IPA, it's not necessarily going to be brewed in England. It's just a style, you know. So because I need to concentrate, I can't film the entirety of the judging process, but I'm going to try and, you know, videotape little snippets here and there so you guys can, just to give you guys an idea of what my impressions are and just to check in about how it's going. Well, here's the beer, and I've already written down some notes. Very quickly, some things, obviously I've been drinking it. Some things I noticed are, it's the color, which is, you can't really tell here, it's a light copper, which is appropriate. The head sank really quickly. It's rocky, it's uneven, it just melts. It's kind of like a root beer float on a really warm day. And that, not so great head retention. It's okay for some styles, but this should have a large head. So that's going to be a fault that I'll have to note. And in terms of aroma, it's got this great citrus floral hop aroma, which is appropriate for the style, but the maltiness is there as well. What's really interesting is the taste. I really like it. Because of the bitterness, the malt kind of starts out roasty in your mouth, but then that roastiness kind of disappears to reveal this grainy, bready malt instead. So it's got this sort of layer cake thing going on, and I love it. So this beer is really tasty. I've got my score sheet right here. One of the things that I said was that when I was describing that change in the malt, I said that the malt, which starts out roasty on the tongue due to the bitterness, but then dies down to reveal a grainy, buttered bread character. So that buttery flavor that I'm getting now in the aroma too is probably a little bit of diacetyl, which can be a fault in most beers, but for this style, a little bit is appropriate. Now, if I had marked it as a fault on here, I probably, unless there was a ton of diacetyl, would have points taken off, because I need to know what is appropriate for the style, and that can be hard to do, especially for elements that for most I got cut off, but as I was saying, that can be hard to do because especially when for most styles that element that in one case would be okay, it's a fault in most styles. Okay, I finished scoring this beer. I think I would get a high score on completion. As you can see, I wrote a lot. I tend to do that. And some people sort of look at the outstanding, excellent, very good, the whole scoring guide, and kind of after they've tried the beer and decide where they feel like this beer should fall, and then they like fill in their scores kind of just to make sure it goes into the right category. I don't generally do that, but in this one I kind of feel like maybe I should have. I gave it a 36 out of 50, and that's in the very good range. And this was a very good beer, but I think I just had this feeling they would actually score higher. I feel like it might score in the excellent range, which is the second to highest level, right below outstanding. And I think that this is kind of a reminder that I need to try more. This is the first time I'm sure this is not the first time I've had an English Pale Ale, but it's the first time I have since I became really into beer, and it's the first time that I've had, from this perspective, tried this kind of beer, and I need to try more to get a range, to judge, to base everything on, because I don't really totally know what's a great example that I should be comparing everything to. I think that, and I've been finding that I've been grading things a little bit lower than I used to, because when I first started filling out these score sheets as practice, I would find that I tended to be on the high side. But I still wasn't way off. So, maybe I should just go back to trusting my instincts. I don't know, but it's interesting. I think that I definitely gave this... You okay, sweetie? I definitely gave this a lower score due to the head of the beer that was not substantial, and also the diacetyl, as it kept warming up, it just seemed to be a little too high, and I did give comments on how to correct those things. Ooh, shaky camera.